Choice Auto and Truck, and Holiday Cruises and Tours. Well, good, finally Friday morning, 5 minutes past 9 o'clock. Yep, it's Friday. You know what it means. It's time for your hometown movie guys telling us everything that we wanted to know about what's going on at Sawmill Theaters and ever so much more. And these guys are really good. I'll even turn their microphones on here shortly. Tina, Craig, Andy's not with us, but at least, I mean, Andy's with us, but Craig's not with us.
Yeah.
But at least coming up in a little bit here, we may hear from Craig. But in the meantime, we also have in with us in the studio today Stan Garner. And Stan, it's an honor and a privilege to have you in here with us this morning. We appreciate you being here. How many movies? Toss that microphone over towards Stan there. Or, yeah, how many movies did you say you've been involved in?
I've worked on more than 300 motion pictures, TV shows, TV movies, commercials, still shoots, music videos.
Wow, and always to do about trains?
Only trains.
All right, and so a lot of the movies that we've seen over the past years, or you see a train falling off a trestle or something like that, chances are you had something to do with that.
That's a good possibility.
Wow, we're going to find out more about that. And as I mentioned, Tina and Andy with us also in the studio. Andy, how the heck are you?
Just dandy. Thanks, Randy. I appreciate you asking.
Good, good.
You did a rhyming thing there, just Andy, thanks Randy. Whoa. Are you on or what?
No, he's handy.
Oh my God.
And Tina is sweet as candy.
Oh, I'm sorry, but to be a valley girl, gag me with a forklift.
Yeah, there you go.
Dated a girl named Mandy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, what's his face wrote a song about it and stole the music from, oh gosh, I can't remember who it was now, but that wasn't even an original score. The song Mandy, you know, Mandy, that music was, God, I think it was written by Rachmaninoff or something. He stole that, just as a side note.
Stealing from the best.
That's right. Meanwhile, this morning, talking about everything going on at the Sawmill Theater, and of course we have lots of movies playing at the Sawmill Theater, as always. And but before we get into what all's playing, the new stuff coming in this week, starting today, also want to talk about something that's playing tomorrow, because tomorrow's the first Saturday of February. It's also February 1st, and it's Saturday morning classic movie day at the Sawmill Theaters, which is going to be featuring Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. Movie set in 1850 Oregon, when a backwoodsman brings a wife home to his farm. His six brothers decide that, hey, I want to get married too. Anyway, it plays tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and you can get it for just $5. And Tina, you've been wooing about this movie all morning. We've been talking about it.
Wow. This is, my favorite musical of all time.
Really?
Well, I don't know, you know, Fred Astaire, I mean, Gene Kelly, but this is a real must-see on the big screen. Directed by Stanley Donen, who did such movies as Charade, and choreography by Michael Kidd, who was, back in the day, just one of the premier dancers, choreographers, starring Jane Powell and Howard Keel, on whom I had a major crush when I was a kid. This is a 1954 movie.
Wow, they had movies back then.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and some of the people that who starred in it may be recognizable. Russ Tamblyn, who also starred in West Side Story later on, just an amazing dancer. And then my little tiny claim to fame, Jacques d'Amboise, who was a premier dancer of the New York City Ballet, with whom I had dinner in Utah way back in the
Did you have to wear a tutu for that dinner? Or?
No, he was my uncle who lived in Utah, and I happened to be home from overseas, had a dinner party for all of the dancers of the Utah Ballet, and Jacques d'Amboise was the visiting lead dancer, and what a neat guy. And if you Google this guy, he was an American dancer, but back in the day, if you didn't have a French name, you didn't have creds, and so he just took the name Jacques d'Amboise. And
so it's just made up.
Yeah, that's his stage name, but oh gosh, what an amazing dancer. What you got to see him in the movie, and then Google him on YouTube. He'll knock your socks off.
I'm going to change my name too.
I think so.
It's going to be Jacques Darn Mouth. Something like that, I don't know.
Tina, are there any memorable songs from this movie?
Yes, Johnny Mercer wrote the music, and I'm looking up who wrote the words. But there's the dance number that is the barn-raising sequence. A film critic of the day called it one of the most rousing dance numbers ever put on screen. And one of the things to remember is, I kvetch about this all the time, modern directors don't know how to film dance, they don't film the dance numbers
They
properly.
don't call you to get
They
pointers.
don't,
I mean,
and I'm just
go figure.
cranky.
Available as a consultant.
You think, yeah, really.
You know, a lot of people, maybe, some folks don't really like song and dance movies and stuff, but these dancers, I mean, you have to be in profound physical shape to be able to pull off some of this stuff.
Well, yes, and remember, a lot of these are done without very many cuts.
Mhm.
They are done without very many, the tracking shots are very slow and allow you to see what these dancers are doing as if you went to the theater, except just enhanced by the ability to put it on film.
Wow.
If you've never seen some of these old musicals, which really this is the golden age of musicals, go and see this movie and then tell me that we have lost which we have not.
Wow.
I saw Cats and I was like, oh, s'more.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, please come.
Although,
and-
to be fair, in Cats, there was a really terrific tap dance number in there.
That I will go with. However, I'm not even sure that was filmed as well as it could have been. Think of the great tapsters of yesteryear, Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire, and some of the, there was a pair of brothers, I forget their names, but.
You don't see a whole lot
those-
of tap dancing these days.
Yeah, and Gregory Hines, rest his soul, he was just an amazing tap dancer during the 70s and
Yeah,
80s.
yeah.
Yeah, and he starred, by the way, with Mikhail Baryshnikov
Wow.
in a great movie called White Nights.
From the Russian ballet, right?
Yes, yes. Baryshnikov was a defector,
Right.
right? He came over to, he snuck out of Russia. And that man, I saw him in person as well, so he was just.
Didn't have dinner with him, though?
No, but I did brush elbows with him while walking down a New York street. And,
Didn't wash that arm for a
I
week.
tell you, it was like, being in the presence.
There you go. So
Anyway,
again,
go see it.
Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, again, the 1954 classic song and dance movie, playing tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the Sawmill Theaters. You can get in for just $5. And I'm kind of guessing there's going to be a lot of people there to see this tomorrow.
I think so, and also if you want to get a good seat, advise to come early, and then if you are there, you will be allowed to vote on what's for next month. So, if there's a movie near and dear to your heart that is a classic, come and watch this one and vote on next month.
So that'll be interesting. It's always cool. Everyone gets to vote on what they see next month.
Yeah.
And the classic movie of the month that Craig puts on for us down there at the Sawmill, this is really fun.
Yeah.
There are many people, I guess, in the area that weren't born when this came out in 1954.
Uh-huh.
Several, probably. And to see an old movie like this, of this quality, up on the big screen, where you see these people up there singing and dancing their hearts out, 10 feet tall, it's really an experience. And I encourage everybody out there in Radio Land to come in and see it. The classic movie of the month is really a great innovation that Craig has made down there at the
Yeah, and I have
Sawmill
people
Theater.
tell me, oh, I've seen it on TV, oh, I have it, It was first seen on the big screen. This is how it's supposed to be seen. To me, seeing it on TV is like looking at the Grand Canyon through a keyhole. Just,
Good analogy, I
There
like
you
that. And besides that, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers is one of the few movies ever made, a song and dance type movie, that Tina doesn't complain about the camera angles and shots. So, get down there
none
and
of
check
the
it out.
old movies, none of the old dance movies. Those old boys knew how to film it.
There you go. All right, and now we have to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about a couple of new movies that are starting today at the Sawmill Theaters, as well as what movies are hanging around for another week. And then we're going to talk a little bit with Stan Garner as well, with over 300, being involved in over 300 movies, television shows, and things like that. It's got an interesting perspective on the topic, bringing some interesting perspective to our hometown movie guy squad this morning. We'll get to all of that right after these words.
Your will, living trust,
Tina, I have to say that your story about seeing it on the big screen is great, and I now have a big screen.
I don't care how big it is, you gotta go to the theater.
It's not big enough.
It's a different experience, sitting in the dark with a lot of people, there's
Typical female
music,
filter somewhere.
it's the holistic movie
Yeah.
experience.
Protect your family.
I worked on a dance movie years ago.
Really? What'd you work on?
A Carl
still
Reiner
on the
film
air.
called Burt Rigby, You're a Fool. It's a movie that came and went in days.
I guess it did, because I hadn't heard of it.
It got it was a musical.
Really?
And it starred a fellow named Robert Lindsay, who was a Broadway
Yeah.
Tony Award-winning dance song guy.
I wanna see it, what's it called?
Burt Rigby,
Burt Rigby.
You're a Fool. And it is the funniest doggone movie.
10 seconds.
Well, and Carl Reiner or?
Carl Reiner.
Carl.
4 seconds.
Man.
16 minutes now past 9 o'clock, 43 degrees, looking for that high today, getting up to around 57. We'll look at today's Rim Country weather forecast coming up for you in about 14 minutes. Meanwhile, this morning on Rim Country 4, I'm talking with your hometown movie guys, Tina and Andy with us in the studio. Craig apparently is busy working on the popcorn machine or something down there at the theaters this morning, but we also have with us Stan Garner, who has been involved in the production of over 300 movies and television shows, and we're going to get some interesting perspective from him here in just a moment. I want to start off here, though, by talking about two new movies that are starting today at the Sawmill Theaters, and the first is called The Gentleman. It starts today. It's about a British drug lord who tries to sell off his highly profitable empire to a dynasty of Oklahoma billionaires. Well, that sounds like an interesting mix. It's rated R, place at 1, 4, and 7. Just by the description, I'm kind of thinking that this might be a bit of a comedy.
Well, it's Guy Ritchie,
Oh, okay.
you know, who really guilty pleasure. I love Guy Ritchie. You know, he did that one with Brad Pitt.
Yep.
Yeah, what was the name of that one?
Snatch.
Snatch. Oh, it's so funny. Yes.
Yeah, Guy Ritchie's, his forte, I guess, is what he does most famously, and what he has done best are British comic gangster flicks.
He is
Yep.
gangsta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just horrifyingly evil
Yeah, really.
gangsters doing just amazingly crazy stuff. In Snatch, Brad Pitt played a gypsy who was a boxer, and so there was underworld illegal boxing
Right.
involved in this. And in the entire movie, you couldn't understand a word that Brad Pitt said because of his accent.
Yeah. He either made up this Romany accent or he studied it and did it. But literally, he talks a lot.
Yeah.
And the only word I did understand is me man. He talks
Yeah,
about his
talks
mother.
about his mom,
me man. Right? But they live in caravans and,
Which are
it's
trailers.
Yeah, it's a masterful movie. But I'm going to see this with Andy because
Yeah.
I love Guy Ritchie.
And-
Even though he married Madonna, sorry.
Well, I think
we all
he
have
got-
our cross to bear.
Yeah, and he
Didn't he-
divorced her, so
Yeah,
that's better.
he escaped, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In any case,
So there was a happy ending to this.
just a stellar cast. Matthew McConaughey, Charlie Hunnam, is that how you say his name?
I think so.
He's the guy from the TV show Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, okay.
And he and Guy Ritchie actually worked together on a King Arthur movie here a couple of years ago. Guy Ritchie directed it, and Hunnam played King Arthur. So
There you
good
go.
for him. Yeah, not a great movie in that case. Also, Henry Golding, my new favorite actor. Henry Golding played in Crazy Rich Asians here a couple of years ago. A really terrific rom-com.
Right.
Also, Colin Farrell, Hugh Grant, and Michelle Dockery.
Oh, yeah, Michelle Dockery.
And-
She was from Downton Abbey.
That's right.
Oh, yes, she played, I forget her name, but
The older
the
sister.
older sister who married, and yes, I mean, just a wonderful, wonderful actress.
Hmm,
Yeah, big fan.
very interesting.
So, I mean, tremendous, tremendous cast. Guy Ritchie directing in the genre that he is most expert at. And I'm expecting great things.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, lots of violence.
And that might be one of the reasons why
He also did Rock and Rolla.
Yeah, he did.
might be one of the reasons why The Gentleman is rated R. It's not a good one.
Oh.
It's a hard R.
Yeah.
Don't bring those little ones,
No,
please.
don't.
You know, Andy's gonna sneak me in, but.
So many one-liners, so many times. Also starting today, moving right along, and boy golly, don't you think we ought to? Also starting today at the Sawmill Theaters, a movie called The Rhythm Section. It's about a woman who seeks revenge against those who orchestrated a plane crash that killed her family. Now, this is also rated R, plays at 1:30, 4:30, and 7:30. What do we know about this one, Andy?
Blake Lively.
Oh, okay.
Blake Lively is known for her just intense dramatic roles. She's a young actress. She did one a couple of years ago where she was virtually the entire movie, called The Shallows. And she plays a surfer who's gets marooned on a buoy with a great white shark circling around her. So, she...
Sounds like a great dinner movie.
One person carrying the entire movie, and it was a very well done and well-received movie.
Wow.
And what was the one that she played in where it was that mystery where she, oh goodness, I mean, I count on you to fill in the blanks here, but she was this evil mother who faked her death, faked her disappearance. That was very recent, and it was a very good movie.
No, I
Yeah.
can't remember the name of it either, but...
She's very good.
yeah.
I would see anything that she's in.
Yeah, she's also in The Savages, which is a really, really tense drug kind of a deal set in Los Angeles. And she's in another...
She was in Gone Baby Gone. Remember, she played the sort of poor white trash mother of the stolen child. And you don't even recognize her sometimes. She's extremely glamorous, and then she can kind of,
blend into whatever she
yeah.
has to blend into.
Oh, she's really good.
Yeah, she played in The Town, too.
Yes, oh.
Do we know what the
good movie.
critics are saying about the rhythm section yet?
No,
Oh, that's right, you don't listen to critics. You're critical of critics.
I'm critical of critics, yeah, and I don't read any of their stuff until after I've written mine. I don't want to be contaminated by their snooty big city ideas.
Those snooty big city critics.
Anyway,
Well,
this is a big movie here, Rhythm Section, and I've seen the trailers for it,
Right.
and just super violent. She's really angry.
Wow.
And she goes after these people and fixes their wagons right proper. Spent $50 million doing it. Her co-stars Jude Law, R-rated again, so don't take the kids.
So she's really cranky and violent, huh?
Yep.
The movie Rhythm Section brought to you by My Doll. Anyway, sorry, that was bad. Another movie that's playing at the Sawmill Theaters this week, and going into its second week, as a matter of fact, Richard Jewell. That's that story about the security guard, Richard Jewell, who saves lives from a bomb at the 1996 Olympics, but is vilified as a terrorist by the press. It's also rated R, plays at 1, 4, and 7. And into its second week here. How's this been doing overall in the box offices, Amy?
Not good.
Really?
No.
Unfortunately, because it's a Clint Eastwood.
Yeah,
Oh, so it's like...
Spent $45 million to make it, and so far it's only brought in $36 million. Very sad.
And very true.
Eastwood himself, I mean, it's very sad it's not making money. Eastwood himself, along with Jonah Hill and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Careful. He's actually a very good actor.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
Are all listed among the producers, which means they ponied up their own money, and it's going to take them 112 years to get it back.
Well,
But it's really, I mean, Payson, go see this movie. It's a wonderful movie. It's a Clint Eastwood, and it's a true story.
Yeah, I saw it yesterday afternoon. the 1 o'clock showing, and it was well attended. It was,
Oh, I'm so happy.
yeah.
So an interesting movie. Richard Jewell again plays at 1, 4, and 7. Now another movie that's not doing a whole lot is Doolittle. Physician discovers rather that he can talk to animals, and while I always like the the stories even as a kid of Dr. Doolittle and his Puddleby adventures, but this particular movie is kind of been put out to the dog run for a while.
This is a big movie, $175 million to make it. And it's a really quite enjoyable movie if you're 7. But we,
But it only come out 57 years ago.
yeah, we have the Pixar films now as the new kind of the gold standard in what makes just a stunning movie for children that can be enjoyed by adults. This one does not meet that standard. The public is staying away. It is in the movie business, we refer to this as an epic fail. They spent $175 million bucks. It's a good movie, but it's only good for little kids. It's too bad.
So this movie actually truly is the bomb.
Yeah.
The
They've
bomb.
only brought in $93 million bucks on a $175 million budget. It's just owie.
Chances are there might not be a sequel coming
I
anytime
don't
soon.
think so. And the Eddie Murphy Doolittle movies were funny, and people
Right.
liked them and went to them.
I thought those were great.
But-
There wasn't too much Eddie Murphy was in that I didn't like.
Yeah, but not this one. If you have little kids that you want to entertain, they'll like it.
Okay. Well, another movie that's playing that has been getting a lot of positive response, including 10 Oscar nominations, which also includes Best Picture, is the movie 1917, about 2 British privates during World War I that must deliver a message in enemy territory. Now, this is also rated R. Got a lot of R's this week. Plays at 1:15, 4:15, and 7:15. And Tina, I remember you saying that you thought this was really well done.
Oh, I really loved it. I was so impressed by it. I still haven't figured out if it's a true story or not. However, it's a great myth, of perseverance and just random things that happen that change somebody's trajectory so that this guy's trying to deliver this message. And he just the stuff that he goes through and the things that happen to him and the characters that he meets on the way. And as Andy said, it is almost one tracking shot. There may be a cut, but it is quite extraordinary, the camera work.
That's pretty, we've talked about the last couple of weeks, but I find that to be, having played with cameras and done a little editing myself, that's a pretty bizarre concept to even comprehend, that you could have one camera angle tracking it through this whole thing, and everybody is where they need to be when they need to be there, saying what they need without any cuts. I mean, that's unheard of.
Yeah, and again, I was
Little movie magic,
watching.
maybe. Yeah.
I was watching for any possible cuts, and I think there's 1 or 2
Mhm.
places where maybe they cut, but really, I think Andy's right on, that it's almost all one shot.
Wow.
Yeah, if not all one shot.
And this was something that you gave, 11/77 saw blades to?
Yeah, I like this one a lot.
Wonderful, yeah.
I thought it was very well done, and it gets extra points for the technological innovation of having a whole movie done in one shot. And it's almost disconcerting to watch, because we're used to snips and cuts, and all of a sudden you get in the camera angle from the crane above them, and all of that stuff, looking through all the stuff that the directors will do, and there's none of that. You're just following these
Really
characters.
immerse you into the story.
Yeah, you are. You're hooked right into the action. It's amazing.
We gotta get these guys to film the dance sequences.
Now you're talking.
See,
There you
we
go.
use a Steadicam and go for it.
Well, and one last movie rounding out the slate at the Sawmill Theaters this week, Bad Boys for Life. The Bad Boys are back together for one last ride. Also rated R, plays at 1:15, 4:15, and 7:15. And how's this been doing in the box office?
Making oodles of money.
Oodles.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, $90 million budget, 225 million at the box office so far. And oddly for such an American-themed movie, it's doing reasonably well overseas as well. Number one at the box office 2 weeks in a row. Everybody loves Will Smith, and they should.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
In these movies, he's just fun to watch.
Well, again, it's a week of a lot of our movies. Matter of fact, the only one that is not our, of the new movies coming out, and the ones that are held over this week, is Doolittle. So take the kids to go see Doolittle. And you adults have a great choice of Bad Boys for Life, 1917, Richard Jewell, The Rhythm Section, and The Gentleman. Don't forget Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. I have no idea where Bridges got into the whole thing, but
You live
I'm
in
sure-
Toronto Basin, we know.
Yeah, well, you know.
Congratulations, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, as a matter of fact, talking about the bridge.
yeah.
Yeah, passed the Senate yesterday, and bipartisan support, vote of 28-2, which was astounding. It's now onto the House and budget, and we'll see what happens next, but that's, we're like halfway there, so that's a good thing. Now, we have to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit with Stan Garner. He's been involved, if you've been listening since the top of the hour, been involved in over 300 different movies and television shows, always to do with trains, and one of the ones that he was involved with that I just got a major kick out of is Brother, Where Art Thou? We're going to find out some of the things that he did in that movie, as well as we've got a number of other interesting facts that will unfold here for you. And if you have questions as we go along, feel free to give us a call, 474-2427. Back with more right after these.
We haven't lost a single
Who are
one today.
Ren Country
I'm sorry, what was that?
We haven't lost a single client today.
That's
Yeah,
right.
because we
I don't
never
have
had
any
a-
volume in my earphone.
Heating and air
Oh.
conditioning ducts, plus flood or fire restoration.
That help at all?
water damage and mold removal,
Dang.
sunshine cleaning and restoration. Certified and reliable with
Yeah, I can
30
live with
years
that.
experience
So,
that you can trust.
Yeah,
These,
we're
these
gonna,
are the loudest, and those are less loud, so when I turn them up, the breeze is there.
Oh, I love that. I love
Sometimes these are
everything
rumbling
they
off
do.
my head.
They do
They're
great
just,
stuff.
they're amazing. I love Fargo, I've seen that
25,
20 times.
21. Now in their new
Yeah.
location at 511
Yeah.
South Beeline Highway.
And Frances McDormand is Joel Cohen's wife.
I know,
KMOG
yeah.
Ren Country
Yeah.
weather forecast
And she's
for this
great.
Friday, January 31st.
All right, Tina, if you
It's going to
could
be sunny, but
toss the microphone,
Yes,
and you try and get it as close in front of you as you can, the directional, and then maybe you and Andy can kind of get friendly there and
Up on
okay,
top of the
share
ridge,
that one.
higher winds with the daytime
He
high
has
only
cooties.
reaching 47. And
Boys
our
don't have
neighbors to the
cooties,
south
girls
in
have
Tono
cooties.
Basin and those out of Roosevelt Lake, your high
Am not, R2.
67 degrees.
All right, we have one more commercial after this scintillating weather forecast. and we're
Dropping
back.
back into the upper 30s with a chance for rain and snow.
Hey.
Can you expect that? A complete look at your 7-day forecast is coming up right here on your information station, KMOG.
Hi, I'm Dan with Dan Gibb Flooring, and I would like to talk to you about Shaw Luxury Vinyl Planks. This material has taken the place of laminate. It is a waterproof and scratch-resistant flooring. Shaw Flooring makes many different styles and colors to choose from, with an authentic look of real wood. You'll be amazed. So come visit us at 810 North Beeline Highway and check
the
out our
editors
new
all the way
Shaw
over there.
Luxury Vinyl Plank. And remember, we don't just do a good job, we do a damn good job.
A listener tells us about her experience with Hospitality Wireless.
Oops.
Carol, I've had both cable.
But wait, there's one more commercial.
I meant 8 more, not one
Yeah,
more.
that's right. And of course, this is a 60-second commercial,
I had a
so.
lot of buffer issues.
Ah.
About Hospitality Wireless. I have been extremely pleased.
Foley editor.
No loss of internet.
Mhm. What does a Foley editor do?
I'll explain it.
Okay.
I highly.
He edits
For some reason, I've
He
heard
edits the
of
Foley.
that before, and I'm trying to remember what it was.
Hospitality Wireless is
30 seconds.
Foley's answer to unreliable internet connection and surprise.
Are they still using Foley
Part
machines?
of the new technology revolution to deliver
Yeah,
fiber
yeah.
affordably with high speed and truly
All right, here we
unlimited
go.
data. They'll answer your questions
10
at
seconds.
468-0000 or shoot them a text for support and questions. 928-970-2565. That's 970-2565.
26 minutes in front of 10 o'clock, 44 degrees. And again, this morning, if you just tuned in, talking with, as we do on Fridays, the Hometown Movie Guys, Tina and Andy with us in the studio. Craig is busy popping popcorns, but also in the studio with us this morning, we have Stan Garner. And, you know, a lot of folks around Rim Country know Stan. He's been here for a long time, but I didn't realize, I knew that you'd been involved in movies, Stan, and specifically with your connection with trains and stuff like that, but I had no idea you have over 300 movies and television shows you've been involved with. That's a pretty astounding number.
It surprised me. I got started in 1972. My original partners and I bought the train collection from 20th Century Fox.
Wow.
And
Now, wait a second. Now, at what point you say, I think I'll buy that train collection from the movie company? I mean, what led you to that decision?
I wrote a whole book about it.
Oh, okay.
And a buddy and I bought a little steam engine in 1967.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted a railroad car to go with it. And we knew that Paramount had a railroad collection from the movie Union Pacific.
Right.
And so I called over to Paramount to see if they'd sell us a railroad car, because they hadn't used them for a long time. And I ended up talking to a fellow named Jerry Cook. And Jerry said, well, we're not selling anything right now, but send me a letter, and if we decide to sell something, I'll let you know. I found out later Jerry was the vice president of studio operations.
Oh, wow.
He had been the property master for Cecil B. DeMille, making Union Pacific, and he had had the train in his control ever since.
Wow, so it probably had emotional ties.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Neat guy, really neat guy. And then along in 1970, there was an MGM auction. And two other friends and my partner and I went down to that, and we each bought a railroad car, one coach and a flat car. But we wanted to see if anything else was available. And then in 71, I got a call from Jerry. And he said, you still want a railroad car? And I said, sure. And he said, well, okay, we're going to sell the collection. I said, great, there's a couple of cars I want. And he says, no, you don't understand. We're selling the collection, 27 railroad cars.
Wow.
All from the 19th century.
Time to go to the ugly teller real quick, huh?
Oh,
I said, I can't afford that. He said, yes, you can. He said, Bob Shelton's going to buy the 27 cars. Bob Shelton owned Old Tucson at the time.
Oh, okay.
And he's going to keep what he wants, and you're going to buy the rest from him. I said, I still can't afford it. He said, yes, you can. He said, there's a third party that wants the collection for a museum in Nevada. But they're number 3 on the list. Bob was number 1, and I was number 2.
Sweet.
And so over a period of 2 months, we did a finagle. And we ended up keeping 7 railroad cars. And our little steam engine that we had could only pull 2 at a time. So we needed a bigger steam engine. Now, Paramount had 2 steam engines that were really neat, but they were also extremely expensive.
I can't imagine.
So I knew 20th Century Fox had a steam engine. So I called a fellow named Bernie Barron at Fox. He was the vice president of their studio. He said, sure, we'll sell the train, but you got to buy everything that goes with it. I heard that story before.
Right, right.
I said, okay, what is that? And he said, I have no idea. You got to go look at it. And that was at Century Ranch in Malibu.
Wow. And I guess you could say this isn't your first rail rodeo.
No. And we get out there, and they've not only got the steam engine we want, they've got 17 railroad cars and a third of a mile of track.
That'll fill up the backyard.
yeah.
So we did another finagle, and we made a deal where we could sell off, we made a down payment, and we could sell off the cars we didn't want, and when we paid everything off, we could move the stuff that we did want to our place in Altaloma, Southern California. So that's what we did. And while we still had this stuff at Fox, they used it in film, and one of them was an episode of Kung Fu with David Carradine.
Oh, right, right.
So
When you can
that was my start.
when you can
Grasshopper?
snatch the boxcar from my hand, grasshopper.
Grasshopper.
So, I mean, this isn't something that you store in your backyard. I mean, that's a whole bunch of railroad cars.
Yeah, we leased the tail end of an unused spur from the Santa Fe out in Altaloma.
Wow. That's amazing. And so how many cars did you end up with altogether then, when this was all said and done?
Well, after the first sequence, we had a dozen railroad cars and 3 steam locomotives.
Right. Man, that's a bunch. Now, you mentioned before going on the air this morning that you really enjoyed, helping with the movie Brother, Where Art Thou? And I have to say that's a movie that every time I see it come around on TV, I have to watch it again because I get a kick out of that movie.
I watch it every time I've seen it. Every time it comes available, I watch it. It's one of the most fun films I ever worked on.
And why?
it just, the whole attitude on the set was just a delight.
Huh.
And we did the train sequence where the escaped convicts try to hop on a boxcar.
Right?
We did that in outside of a town called Leland, Mississippi, which is in the Yazoo, Mississippi Delta, east of Greenville.
So people there really do know their Yazoo then?
Yes, they do.
Okay, cool.
Oh, there's some neat towns in there, Balzoni and
Yeah.
all these weird towns. And we were in the middle of a cotton field. And it was we did the entire train sequence in one day. But it was, you know, about 6 weeks of preparation. I had to find the right equipment. I didn't own the right equipment at the time. I found a train out of Arkansas and some railroad equipment out of Texas. And we assembled a typical 1930s freight train.
Wow. I mean, just the logistics on that have to be an interesting nightmare.
That was the biggest part of the job, was the logistics, yeah.
I imagine. Now, you mentioned too, we were talking before the show today, and I was curious as far as, train wreck type of stuff. You've been involved in some of those type of movies too. What was the biggest train wreck? I mean, going off a bridge, or what was the
We worked on Under Siege 2 in 1994,
right?
with Steven Seagal. And one train rear ends another, and you see the locomotive go through a railroad car.
Mhm.
And that was a pretty elaborate scene. And they built a shell of a railroad car, dressed the interior, suspended it over a railroad track, and put a mirror at a 45-degree angle at the far end of the car, a giant mirror, and filmed the train coming through the set, and it destroyed the railroad car.
Wow. That had to be, I mean, to me, what I'm hearing is like Kid in the Candy Store. I mean, to me, that would just be a blast.
It was.
Literally and figuratively. And obviously, there's an awful lot of pre-planning that has to go into this, because it's not like, oh yeah, we have 6 other cars here that we can, destroy if this take doesn't work. I mean, you got to make sure that everything is ready to fly to be able to really capture.
Yeah, they ended up doing 3 takes.
They did do 3
They had to rebuild the car 3 times.
Wow.
The first time,
No wonder these movies are so darn expensive.
the first time there was a piece of material broke loose from the impact,
Mhm.
and it hit the mirror and broke the mirror.
Oh, wow. Get another mirror too. Yeah. Wow. And so, as far as some of the other movies that, the titles of which people would readily recognize, name a few that you've been involved in.
You know, if people are interested in film history and how the industry got started, I worked on a film back in the early 90s called Chaplin with Robert Downey Jr. And that film captures Hollywood perfect.
Wow.
The set dressing and the production values on that was spooky.
Really?
It was really spooky.
Kind of like you step back in time? or
It
something?
was an absolute time lapse.
I
It really
believe
was.
he won an Oscar for that, and well-deserved.
Yeah, Richard Attenborough directed.
Oh, man, I mean, that, yes, the classic director. I'm so impressed that you worked on that movie. I love that movie.
Wow. So, so this little time capsule trip back in time sort of experience, that's what made that extra special for you?
Yes, oh, absolutely.
Oh.
I mean, it had a great cast. I mean, Dan Aykroyd was in there,
Right.
and but it was just surreal. It really was.
Yeah, and if you're an old Chaplin fan, and, by the way, an old Buster Keaton fan, because Buster Keaton did the movie with the train.
Mhm.
What was that called?
The General.
The General. Oh, my God. Those stunts, he did all himself.
You know, Chaplin and Keaton
Yeah.
invented some of the most important technology for filmmaking that's still in use today.
Really, how's that?
Just the way they staged things and the way they created camera angles,
Mhm.
they were incredibly influential.
But, I mean, they were, kind of before their time as far as their insight on.
They invented the systems.
Wow,
Yeah.
very
And
interesting.
they
I
were
didn't realize.
they did their own stunts, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about that.
When I
It's
think back
extraordinary.
to, movie greats, certainly when it comes to acting back in the day, I would think of Charlie Chaplin back in the very early days. But I never really considered him from the perspective of movie production. And I think that's interesting.
Both he and Buster Keaton were major innovators in film production.
Right.
Very interesting. Well, we have to take a fast break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more with Stan. You know, one of the things that you might find interesting, if you, like Tina, are one of those that sits around in the theater after the movie watching every last credit go up the
Andy does it
screen.
too.
Well, there's more than two of you out there, I'm sure. But if you've ever wondered things like, what does the best boy gaffer do? Or who's this guy that's called a key grip? And more important, because we're a country music station, who gets the job of dolly grip? Well, we'll find out more about those questions coming up right after this word.
Why use your travel
That is such a
I just caught that dolly grip at the last moment there. That's
I just watched that recently.
Did you?
Just,
I can save you time because
I mean, I
When I was
see
introduced to-
movies over and
I
over
also
again.
When I was introduced to Richard Attenborough,
Oh.
my role is usually next to camera, cueing the train.
Right.
And my partner was the engineer, but I really liked cueing, being involved in the actual
Right.
production. Then I was introduced to Richard, and Sir Richard, and he says, "Hi, call me Dickie."
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, he was, what,
He's just a guy.
Richard of the River Kwai.
Yeah.
I don't care if my name is Richard or not. Do not call me Dickie.
I
What
know.
else, what else did he do?
And The Great Escape,
Ah,
The Great Escape,
Did he do The Great Escape?
yeah. He was in it.
Attenborough was in it.
Yeah, he was in it,
Oh,
yeah.
that's right, he was in it, yeah. Yeah. Oh, he's,
Check out our
and,
website.
The old
did he
The
do
old Hollywood
Lawrence on
people-
the Radio?
10 seconds.
were just the most generous, big-hearted people you ever met.
Urgent care. Call 928
Okay, here we go.
468
14 minutes in front of 10 o'clock, 45 degrees. Again, looking for a high today of 57. Looks like a beautiful weekend ahead, but there's also some rain and snow showers headed our way and a big drop in temperatures. We'll tell you all about it coming up in about 15 minutes on KMOG 7-day weather forecast. Well, this morning, as we do on Fridays, talking with your hometown movie guys, we have Tina and Andy with us in the studio. Craig couldn't be with us this morning, but we also have sitting in with us Stan Garner, who, again, involved in over 300 movies and television shows. And, you know, Stan, we were just talking during the break, and everything coming out of your mouth right now is just amazing me. You had a chance to work alongside Richard Attenborough.
Yes, I did.
And who's been involved in no small number of movies, both in front of the camera and behind the camera. Huh?
Yeah, he directed Chaplin.
Right.
And a generous man, very, very, very warm-hearted man.
Very interesting. And we were also talking, I remember him actually acting in The Great Escape. That was back in, what, 1969, if I remember correctly.
63.
The Great Escape was 63?
Yep.
Gosh, I was even younger when I was at the Fox Theater in Phoenix than I thought I was.
He also directed Shadowland, which was about C.S. Lewis, a wonderful movie.
C.S. Lewis, now that's a talk show unto itself there.
Indeed.
But one of the things that I find interesting, and we were mentioning just before the break, is all of the different people that, I mean, we think about actors, we think about cameramen, and maybe the guy that holds the boom mic and stuff like that, but there's a lot of different people involved in movies that, we don't necessarily understand what the heck those titles are. And there's, I was asking Stan before the show today, and who is this best boy and why? And actually, in looking through a chart that you brought in, I see that we have more than one best boy. So
Yes, we do.
They must be duking it out all the time.
No, they work together.
Okay. I'm the best boy. No, I'm the best boy. Anyway.
The structure of the production company is very interesting.
Mhm.
You've got the director, you've got the production designer, which runs the art department, and you have the cinematographer, who's camera.
Mhm.
Now, under camera, you have the camera operators, and you have the grips and the electricians.
Mhm.
Now, the grips, they do all of the physical setup of what the camera operator needs to do his job.
Mhm.
Any piece of equipment they need to have moved around, they move around. That's why they're called grips. Move that.
Get a grip. Yeah.
Get enough grips you can move anything.
Right.
And the supervisor of the grips is the key grip, and
Okay.
he's the supervisor. His foreman is the best boy grip. So he's the foreman that actually directs the on-set stuff.
Right.
On the electrical department, the head of the electrical department is the gaffer,
Right.
and his assistant and foreman is the best boy gaffer.
Gotcha.
A gaffer is a term that goes back to the earliest days of Hollywood. And you can see how it happened if you watch the movie Chaplin. They didn't have good lighting techniques for filming interiors, so they'd build a set outside. They would surround it with a series of poles and wires, 20 feet high. And they would suspend white silk sheets off of those wires that were hung on rings. And the gaffer had a long pole with a thing like a shepherd's crook on the end. And he would move those sheets around to control the lighting. So he became the gaffer.
Wow. So they were diffusing light with sheets.
Yes.
Wow. That's amazing. And the dolly grip, I'm assuming, is not someone that's keeping a grip on the Dolly Madison snack cakes. This
No,
must be the dolly that the camera's on?
The camera dolly.
Right,
The dolly grip set up the camera dolly.
right. And a lot of these moving shots where the camera is moving horizontal to the frame in focus, they're usually on like a little mini railroad track type of thing.
Yeah, the railroad track is actually a scissors assembly that is a pipe, 2 pipes.
Right.
And the dollies are equipped with specially shaped rubber tires. So they can move it absolutely silently
Mm.
and very smoothly.
Very interesting.
And they're heavier than all get out.
That's why they got to have all those grips in there. Now, when it comes to sound, I mean, you've got there's always a lot of different people involved. You got music, and you've got special effects that have to be. A lot of that's done in post production, or I mean, it used to be done kind of live while things were going on. I know.
Most of the sound effects are done by the Foley editor.
The Foley editor, okay.
They do that. If you hear a car door close, a door slam, a gunshot, a squeak,
Right.
all that stuff is done in post.
So post production audio editing only on that.
Yeah, and that's the Foley editor.
Right. And the regular editor is editing the whole
The whole
the
production.
full
yeah.
meal deal. Yeah.
And he and the director do that.
Right. And there's so many other people. I mean, you have a production designer, you have not only the director, but the first assistant director, you have a second assistant director, and I mean, there's
The first assistant director is the quarterback.
right?
He's responsible for putting out the call sheet every day. The call sheet gives in immense detail every single prop, location, actor, crew that's going to be needed for that day's production. And that's all done in accordance with the script supervisor, who is responsible for keeping track of which scenes have been shot and which scenes haven't.
Right.
Script supervisor also takes photographs of every set and location, because you don't film movies in sequence. 1917 probably being an exception. You want to film a principal actor, like a Matt Damon.
Right.
And he's at the beginning of the film and the end of the film. You film the beginning and the ending together.
Right.
So he's come and gone quickly. It's cheaper.
Makes sense.
And so anything he's in has to match perfectly. Now, if that same set is used during the film, you can't have a window shade in the wrong position.
Right.
You see that sometimes.
Right, the continuity.
It's the continuity.
Right.
Script supervisor does continuity.
And whether you have one of these assistant directors that is, maybe forgetting something that should have been there. I mean, those kind of people don't keep their job long because
No, they don't.
It's an awful lot of money just for every day of a shoot.
Oh, it's over $250,000 now.
Wow, for one day.
Whoa, for one day.
I need to get a new job.
I mean, you figure,
It's above my pay grade.
on a big feature, you're gonna have at least 150 people on the job.
Right.
Right.
And everybody's got a job. And when the director says, I need, there's somebody there to do it.
Very cool. You know, a couple weeks ago here, we had the folks from the Oxbow outfit in here talking about their experience down at Mescal down by Benson, filming this most recent movie that was shown here in Payson, Eminence Hill. But it's the same set location where Tombstone and other movies were filmed in. You know, these were guys that hadn't really been around this kind of thing before, but man, they came back like they had, like a little kid that had just been to Disneyland or something. It's got to be interesting though to watch just how this stuff comes together and everything.
Yeah, you know, you think about 150 people being on a set, and there are times when there are people not doing anything. But when their job needs to get done, they're there to do it and do it properly.
You know, there's another position that I'm curious about that has a title of scenic artist. And I know that a long time ago, you know, a lot of the backdrops and stuff were painted and things like that, but that, I mean, is that still being done? Is that what a scenic
Some of
artist
it's still being done.
Huh.
You also have storefront signs that are done.
Oh, there you go.
So these guys, you know, they can paint anything.
Keeping fresh paint on the saloon sign and
Yep.
all that kind of good stuff.
Not to mention green screen.
Green
Oh, yeah.
screen. Right.
Yeah, with green
The
screen.
thing about Blazing Saddles where they create that whole fake town.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of, you know, sort of an homage to these guys.
They had the
Yeah.
best dance scene in Blazing
Oh,
Saddles.
totally.
They had the
Well,
best
I don't know,
campfire
Seven Brides
scene,
for Seven
too.
Brothers, but I like that.
Hey, we have a caller on the line. Let's go to the phones here real quick. 4 minutes in front of the hour. Hi, you're on Rim Country Forum. Good morning. Hello? All right.
Okay.
Now, I answered that quick, Andy.
Not your fault.
Don't give me no grief. I answered that fast. They apparently, well, I thought it was trades and sales. I don't know what I'm going to say. Anyhow, now, of course, the art director, a lot of different things falls under the art director. Set design, construction, prop master, wardrobe, costume, set decorations, hair, makeup, and my favorite, the models. That's got to be an interesting arena in and of itself.
Oh yeah, some of the most creative guys you've ever met. I worked on a pre-production on a film that didn't get made.
Mhm.
Spent $5 million in pre-production. To star
And it never got made.
Harrison Ford and Sidney Poitier.
Wow.
And the production designer, who is the supervisor of that department head, and the art director works for him, was a fellow named Ken Adam. Ken had been a Spitfire pilot during World War II. And he went on to work in the film industry, and he did all of the set design for the original Sean Connery 007 movies.
Wow.
He also worked on, he got an Oscar for Dr. Strangelove.
Right. That's another classic from days
Oh,
gone by.
yeah, that's good.
Wow.
One of my top 10.
There you go. Interesting stuff. So, you know, we only got a couple minutes left here, Stan. I'm curious to find out you know, if you have time spent in over 300 movies and television shows. Obviously, you've met a lot of the folks that we see on the big screen and on the boob tube as well. Is there one that stands out above the rest as, wow, that's really a quality person?
You know, I would say 99% of the people I've worked with are great people.
Right.
They really are neat people.
Okay, now let's talk in detail about the other 1%. Because you don't want any more work, right? I won't go down that road.
I'm not going to name names.
Stan needs to lawyer up here.
No, but you know, I would think that, I find that interesting that you say that such a high percentage are really good people, because I think a preconceived misconception would be that a lot of these people have, you know, egos bigger than the Rio Grande, and you know, you got to walk around them with kit gloves, and it's, you know.
You know, I'm going to give you an example. I worked on a movie called There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Mhm.
Daniel Day-Lewis had a young lad who with no movie experience playing the part of his son. He took that kid under his wing and mentored him.
Wow.
Made him feel comfortable doing what he was doing. Taught him a tremendous amount. And the kid gave the performance of a lifetime.
Now, can you imagine how amazing it would be to be mentored by Daniel Day-Lewis? I mean, here's a guy that even his family says they have a hard time dealing with him because he takes on the persona of the parts he plays.
He does.
During the entire production.
He was that character.
I guess they didn't like it when he was playing Lincoln at home. It was,
Well, or Bill the Butcher.
Yeah, that would be tough. Keep sharp objects away from her.
Right.
Well, I tell you what, definitely, Stan, thanks for coming down. We need to do this again because I only have like a few thousand more dumb questions.
Anytime I'm available.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, are you working on anything now?
No, I'm pretty much retired. My health just doesn't let me do 18-hour days anymore.
Right. Wow, I'm anxious to get you back in here because I got a bunch more questions for you, but unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. Don't forget that you can always find out what's playing at the Sawmill Theaters and when it's playing by just going online to sawmilltheaters.com, or you can call Craig right now or 24 hours a day, especially late at night, at 928-595-0816. And Grid Country Forum today has been brought to you by the good folks at the Dana Law Group, Sunshine Cleaning and Restoration, At Your Service Cleaning and Tree Service, Hospitality Wireless, Dan Good Flooring, Anytime Fitness, Choice Auto and Truck, and Holiday Cruises and Tours. You're listening to Rim Country Radio, KMOG Payson, coming up on 10 o'clock. It's 45 degrees. Going to let you know what you can expect in your 7-day weather forecast. Top of the hour news headlines and the diner up next with Suzanne.